Welcome to the June 12th, 2018 Finance Committee meeting. Committee members present this evening, myself, Councilor Di Natale, Councilor Walsh, Zarella, Boschman, and Councilor Kuchmarek. Also present, Councilor Squalia and Auditor Calvin Brooks. At the request, councilors of the Chief of Police, who has another meeting to go to, I'd like to move a couple of items ahead to the front, starting with 170-18. In order that there be and hereby is appropriated the sum of $40,000 to be charged against available funds and credited to police capital expenditures, building repairs for the purpose of replacing carpeting and ancillary repairs to the police station. Chief Martineau wrote a letter to the mayor in this request, and I will read it. Dated May 30th, 2018, the Fitchburg Police Department is respectfully requesting a supplemental appropriation of funds from the FY18 budget that would be used for the purchase and installation of new floor carpeting and matching cov base on the second floor of the police station. The anticipated cost of this project is $33,054. The department requests that additional funding be provided in order to carry out much-needed ancillary repairs to the building. These repairs will cost approximately $6,946. Therefore, I'm requesting a total appropriation of $40,000. The existing carpeting on the second floor of the station is in the original carpeting that was installed when the building was constructed in 1987. It is heavily worn and threadbare. Due to a plumbing leak during the winter, a large section of carpeting had to be removed, and that area is currently just bare concrete. There are also multiple sections in which seams are lifting up, thus causing a safety issue. It is anticipated that the new carpet will provide good usage for at least the next 20-plus years. At the present time, there are several ancillary repairs to the building that need immediate attention. Examples include, but are not limited to, the following: a hole in the ceiling above the public entrance to the building and replacement of broken parts on the HVAC system. Are there any questions for the chief? Councilor Boschman.
Chief,
Yes.
how come we don't use flat vinyl flooring?
The carpeting on the second floor, we feel is a better product. It's easier to clean. It's easier to clean for our custodians just to run a vacuum versus mopping the floors on a daily use. Plus, there's a sound buffering effect when it comes to carpet. So, hopefully that answers your question, Councilor.
Second. Motion made and seconded to approve 170-18. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? It is unanimous. Next, we'll move Order 176-18, that the City of Fitchburg approves the expenditure of funds from the Mass Executive Office of Public Safety and Security grant in the approximate amount of $2,625 for the purpose of said grant, which is to provide child passenger safety seats and education on their use to residents in need. Letter from Chief Martineau dated May 16th on this subject. Dear Mayor, the Fitchburg Police Department has received an allocation of funds totaling $2625 from the Commonwealth of Mass Executive Office of Public Safety and Security of Grants and Research Highway Safety Division to purchase federally approved child passenger safety seats. These items are to be utilized at CPS checkups and fitting stations by officers certified to correctly install child passenger safety seats. This program aims to help reduce child passenger fatalities and injuries by distributing federally approved car seats to residents in need, as well as educating parents, grandparents, and child caretakers on the proper installation and usage of child safety seats. Councilor Boschman.
Chief, again. How many people do we train out there? Do they come to your station, you train them how to put this car seat in and use them?
I have two officers specifically that are assigned to assist residents in having car seats inspected and installed. We go to different venues trying to advocate what services we have. We utilize it through the school department. Last year, I don't have the precise number, but we assisted a significant amount of citizens last year on proper installation of car seats, and we also were able to provide free car seats to the people that needed them last year.
My question is, have you ever tried to get in contact with Health Alliance and work hand in hand with Health Alliance on newborn babies coming out of the hospital?
No, we haven't. This is a grant that we've received, I believe, 3 or 4 years running through the Executive Office of Public Safety. We do have police officers trained in it, and I think it's a great service for the residents of the city, a great opportunity.
All right, thank you.
Councilor Squalia.
If residents, if new parents are concerned about their car seat installation, can they call the Fitchburg Police Department and request
an inspection and an installation?
It happens weekly. You call either the main non-emergency line, or you can call our community engagement unit. And we, like I said, we do it weekly where people come in and, most of our calls for service are inspecting current car seats. But if we find out if they have a car seat that's outdated, we do have a small stock in play at the police station. These funds will allow us to buy more car seats. So sometimes that happens where their car seat's outdated, and we'll give them a brand-new car seat.
Thank you.
Motion to approve 176-18.
Second.
Motion made and seconded to approve 17618. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? It is unanimous. Thank you, Chief.
Thank you, Council.
Moving to the start of the agenda, 16418, in order that the mayor is authorized to execute a community host benefit agreement with NSAJO Holdings LLC at 20 Authority Drive as outlined in the enclosed order. Solicitor Pusateri.
Good evening, councilors. We have the agreement that's before you. Let me just refresh myself on the details. It's funny, I was just looking at it. We're gonna be executing an agreement with for NSAJO Holdings, which is gonna be for the adult use marijuana. And that's gonna be at the Geo Search Building at the corner of Route 31 and Authority Drive. This agreement is in addition to what we're already receiving from the group, and they will be paying an additional amount of $50,000 upon their commencement of demolition for their rehabilitation of the building, another $75,000 for each year as a minimum payment, and if 3% of their gross sales exceed 75, the difference will also be paid in. So there is no cap in this agreement, which is something I was just, had escaped me because we have been putting caps in these agreements. This one does not. Folks also are going to participate in our Community Relations Board, and they'll be contributing about $75,000 per year towards local charities and or city needs. We're asking for your approval to authorize the mayor to execute the agreement. This is an excellent group that we've been able to work with. They have been extremely generous in the host agreements that we've been able to negotiate with them, and coming to the terms on this agreement was a pleasure for us.
Motion made and seconded to approve 16418. Speaking on the motion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? It is unanimous.
Thank you.
Thank you. 16518, in order that there be and hereby is appropriated the sum of $232,123.94, same to be charged against reserve for appropriation insurance recoveries over $150,000 and credited to school expenses. Just pulling up the communication here. From May 22nd, 2018, from Superintendent Ravenel. Mayor, at the request of the city auditor, we hereby request the transfer of $232,123.94 from the insurance recoveries account to the school department budget prior to the end of FY18 on June 30th, so we can accurately close out the year. This transfer represents the first reimbursement from MIAA, the city's insurance provider, on the Crocker claim after subtraction of the $25,000 deductible. As additional reimbursements are received, we will make additional transfer requests to reimburse the school department. Please advise when this transfer can go before City Council when actions are necessary to accomplish the transfer before the fiscal year end. Auditor Brooks?
Yeah, when insurance recoveries come in that are greater than $150,000, by statute, they go into a reserve for appropriation account, and the council has the ability to appropriate the funds to wherever they wish. In this case, it's being appropriated, the request is to have it go back to the school department to cover the costs they've incurred for the work they're doing at the Crocker School.
Council motion.
Calvin,
Yes, sir.
on the line of this, is the city gonna get reimbursed for us renting out, St. Anthony's and sending the kids to Lunenburg?
I believe that's what part of this is, yes.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. Yes. Hey, all right, thanks.
Motion to approve 16518.
Second.
Motion made and seconded to approve 16518. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? It is unanimous. 16618, order that there be and hereby is transferred from within the sum of $30,000 to be transferred from DPW traffic signals expense equipment, $17,000, and DPW highway general expense gas and oil, $13,000, and credited to DPW streetlights, streetlight maintenance. There is a communication from Mr. Laxo dated May 30th to the mayor. I respectfully request approval of the mayor and city council for the following account transfers within the DPW budget without the need for an additional appropriation. Streetlights. Additional funds are needed in the streetlight account because of the cost of major repairs for the following. 1, extensive repairs were required to wiring of the decorative light poles on Main Street to enable the outlets for holiday lights to function. 2, electrical problems that were discovered when the decorative lights on Main Street and North Street were converted to LED. And 3, repairs to underground wiring that fed concrete light poles on Main Street west of the Rollstone Boulder. And 4, repairs to underground wiring at the corner of Main and Snow Streets. Traffic signals equipment. During the past year, beyond normal maintenance and repairs, we were able to convert the traffic signals at Water and Benson Streets and at Putnam and Laurel Streets with video detection, replacing the loops in the pavement that were no longer working properly and creating safety hazards. Also, we coordinated the traffic signals at both ends of the Water Street Bridge. We held off from other upgrades, knowing that we would need the funds to supplement the streetlight account. Gas and oil. There is a surplus in the gas and oil account due to the relatively low cost of gasoline that we enjoyed for much of the fiscal year. Although prices have increased lately, we will still have a surplus in this account. And that was the communication from Mr. Laxo. Councilor Boschman.
Only two things. Number one, up by the upper common, I noticed one of the light posts have a wires exposed on. There's nothing in the back, it's one of those concrete posts. So are we gonna fix that? Because I think that's really a bad safety hazard.
Counselor, that is not the subject of this order.
All right, the other thing is, well, he's taking it out of the streetlight funds, and, you know, I'm asking.
It's taking it out to do things that have already been done.
Well, that's part of the thing I'm asking, if he's gonna do it.
Mr. Laxo, is this a request that's for things that you've already completed or will be completing, and is that one of them?
Yeah, almost all the work has been completed. The only thing that still needs to be worked on is the concrete light poles near the Rollstone Boulder. That's been started but not completed. Has to be coordinated between Unitil and our new streetlight contractor.
And I just want to make sure there's enough funds in there, because we passed something a year ago about stop sign lights on Oak Hill Road. And I want to make sure that they go up too, on the corner of Oak Hill Road and Franklin Road. So I don't want to take all the money out of here and transfer it over and then say we don't have any funds to put the stop signs up there.
Right. I mean, if we don't catch it this fiscal year, we'll do it in the next fiscal year when we get new budget.
Okay.
Motion to approve 16618.
Motion made and seconded to approve 16618. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? It is unanimous.
Thank you.
16718, in order that there be and hereby is appropriated the sum of $10,898 to be charged against wastewater enterprise fund, retained earnings, and credited to wastewater personal services. I'm also going to take up 16818. Are these all under these are separate contracts, correct?
They are
Ms.
separate
Davis? Okay.
contracts.
So we'll start with 16718 for the wastewater enterprise fund, retained earnings, and credited to wastewater personal services. Ms. Davis.
Okay. As with the other contracts that we've presented, we definitely put a lot of work into this. We are revising the CBA, cleaning up some language, those kinds of things with workers' comp, FMLA, Parental Leave Act. The new items and the managerial rights that we were able to gain were the reimbursement of the educational expenses. There's a form in there. If, an employee leaves before 2 years, certainly we want to promote any educational or licensure or certification trainings, to further that. We introduced the new vacation matrix as well, put in a modified light duty policy, no longevity for new hires. We will be installing GPS, or have the right to install GPS. We've instituted the cell phone policy as well as the telephone usage policy. So that first year of the contract is $10,898, which covers the retro. The final on that was, the rates, were the COLAs, was 0, 2, and 2.
What is the total cost of the contract?
$143,993.
Okay. Over a 3-year period?
Correct.
Any questions?
Second.
Motion made and seconded to approve 16718. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? It is unanimous. Thank you. 16818, in order that there be and hereby is appropriated the sum of $60,544 to be charged against available funds and credited to accounts as follows: Building Personal Services, $25,948; Police Personal Services, $618; Health Personal Services, $32,324; Council on Aging Personal Services, $566; Library Personal Services, $566; and Employee Benefits, Other Benefits, $522. Ms. Davis.
Again, with this contract as well, many of the aforementioned items, we're cleaning up the CBA in terms of all of the language, instituted the reimbursement of the educational expense. This, we also will institute random drug testing, install GPS, the new vacation matrix. New hires will not begin to start receiving longevity payments until their 15th year. We have the modified light duty policy, the parental leave act, again, the cell phone policy, and the telephone usage. The overall, the rates for this were 1, 2, and 2. That first year cost is $60,544. The 3-year cost is $274,916. I know that this is a little bit of a larger contract. We definitely needed to bring, in particular, the local building inspectors up to a rate that is comparable to surrounding communities. Local building inspectors are extremely hard to find. I know the town of Wakefield just sent out an email today saying, we've advertised everywhere, we can't find somebody. So we needed to bring them, up to at least a level that is comparable with, with surrounding communities, as well as with the sanitary inspectors as well.
What was the longevity terms before? Right when they start working? Or
5 years.
5 years?
Yeah.
This is now 15?
Yeah.
Okay. President Kuchmarek.
Just going to thank our building and health inspectors. It is certainly well deserved, these cost of living adjustments and raises, and I know they work hard. They take a lot of pride in the work they do, and certainly seen the caliber of the work that they've put forward over the past several years, and particularly some of these new hires, and so well deserved. I'm glad that we can reward the hard work they've done and retain them. Particularly from a retention standpoint. It's always harder to bring new people in. You spend a lot of money and a lot of time training them, and it's a shame when you see employees leave the city. When you finally hit that point where you're operating at a high level of efficiency, which certainly Mr. Curry and Mr. Barbadaro, you've done tremendous jobs in terms of training and building on successes year after year. So I think this is well deserved, and excited to be able to reward the employees of these departments and hopefully keep them for many years to come.
Councilor Zarella.
Every second Tuesday of every month, I have it vividly illustrated to me exactly how many old and out-of-code buildings we have in the city, just because we are an old city. And particularly with reference to the building inspectors, where they are a rare commodity in the state, we desperately need them to continue doing the good work that they do. And so I agree, it is critically important that they have a pay grade that is commensurable with surrounding communities, because there's so much that will go by the boards if we don't have them working at capacity.
Motion to approve 16818.
Second.
Motion made and seconded to approve 16818. Counsel
Question?
Boschman,
Can I
speaking on the
ask you a
motion? Yeah,
question?
you have the floor, Counselor.
Okay. You said 1, 2, and 2, right? 1%, 2%, 2%?
Correct.
Is that 1%, 2% counting the cost of living increases too? Is that all part of the package on this 1%, 2%, 2%?
Yes, that is included in there. That first, the first year pays out, they get 1% that first year, and it's retro back till, July 1st of 2017. But that is included in all the numbers.
And the reason why I'm asking that is because I looked at some of the, when we're doing the budget, and I noticed some of the pay raises, and you said 1%, 2%, 3%, and if you're making 50,000, 1% of 50,000 is 500, but I noticed that some of the people were getting thousands of dollars of raises. Where did that all come in? How did that happen?
Because we needed to raise them overall up to a comparable level. So, for instance, a building inspector, step one, was at $49,996. And very, shortly after that, the two newest ones, we had bumped a couple of $1,000s because you really need to try to remain competitive. So we ended up dropping the first two steps on the matrix, adding two at the end, and so that just sort of organically bumps everybody up. So if you happen to be at the beginning of that matrix, of the wage matrix, you're going to end up making, your increase is going to be over time a little bit larger.
So it's a double effect. It's where we're revising the pay scales.
Correct.
And then the 122 is on top of the new pay scales.
Yes.
And the new pay scale is based on the market assessment.
Yes.
So I'm pleased to see that we're looking at the market as it is. I know where I work, market forces drive employee retention, so I'm glad we're looking at it. Just out of curiosity, what's the geography you look at for market rate? Do you look at just the surrounding communities, or how many communities do you actually assess?
It really depends on what particular position we're looking at. I mean, even with this one, we looked as far as Acton, because it's only 25 minutes away. They're starting at 80.
Okay.
So, you look at somebody like Leominster, it's like 62. We really try to stay within, in this particular group, more geographically as well as like-sized communities, because obviously you can't really compare us to Acton.
Standard practice in the private sector.
Yes.
It makes perfect sense to me.
Yep.
Any other questions on the motion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? It is unanimous. Thank you. 16918, in order that there being hereby is appropriated the sum of $16,978 to be charged against available funds and credited to library personal services. Ms. Davis.
So, as you can see, this is only 2 pages long. There's really nothing else attached to it. We gave the library a 1-year contract. They agreed to a 1-year contract because, quite honestly, we need to look at all of their salaries, all of the staffing. I know that a number of years ago, this was probably, from what I'm told, the hardest hit group. And while we certainly don't need to get back to any staffing levels where they were, at this point, we definitely need to look at that. And we really didn't have ample time to really do this justice. So we did a 2% for 1 year, and we will do the same thing next year. It'll be a 1-year contract as well, because the other impetus there is to get them on a different expiration schedule for their contract.
Do we have any idea, Mr. Brooks, if the FY, so this is the retro for FY18?
Correct.
Do we have anything baked into the budget for FY19, considering that we're seeking a similar, I would assume, as you said, a 1-year contract,
Yeah.
which I would assume another 2%, or maybe we can't negotiate, obviously, in open session, but has there been something baked into the FY19 budget for the library personal services?
no.
fees? Okay.
No.
So we should expect to see probably a similar amount that's going to be requested.
I think on all three all three of these contracts were not included in the mayor's budget because at the time we did not have any settlement.
Right.
Okay, so will there be a supplemental appropriation then coming before us?
There will be, at some point, yes.
And with this one, we are already, we had a number of meetings, but these are already scheduled for August.
Okay.
So they'll be done pretty quickly.
Okay. Counsel Boishman.
Quick question. How come the city, it doesn't shoot for a 5-year contract, like more the industrial sector versus a 3-year or 2-year? Why not 5 or 6 years going out?
I think that probably just with sometimes, obviously, the volatility of just the financial markets, I don't know that it would be the best idea to get locked in for a 5-year period. I mean, honestly, I think 3 years is probably a good amount of time, because you also, you may have different employees, different department heads, and I don't know that 5 years is a good idea to get locked in for that long.
The only reason I say, a lot of industry, they do a 5-year lock-in. It's a lot less headaches, and they know where they're heading.
And that's true, but for instance, if we had been in a 5-year cycle right now, all of the managerial rights that we were able to gain, as well as all the benefits to the employees, wouldn't have happened, or they'd have to wait longer. And honestly, the job market can certainly change substantially in a 5-year period. So I don't know if the city's ever done 5-year contracts, but I don't think I'd be in favor of that.
Motion to approve 16918.
Motion made and seconded to approve 16918. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? It is unanimous. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we'll move to 17118. In order that there be and hereby is appropriated the sum of $350,000 to be charged against available funds and credited to fire capital expenditures, vehicle replacement, for the purpose of acquiring a new pumper for the fire department. There is a letter dated, actually,
Thank you.
that was in our packet from September 19th of 2017 from Chief Roy. Dear Mayor Danny Talley, we're requesting the following equipment for 2018. These items have been on our list of priority needs for a number of years. We have tried to get FEMA AFG grants to fund JAWS rescue tools and new pumper over the past few years, but have been unsuccessful due to the limited funding in these grant programs. It is time we purchase this equipment, as the dependability at emergency incidents puts the public and firefighters at risk. Also, parts for this equipment is difficult to obtain, costly, and oftentimes no longer available. This is specifically for the pumper truck, which I believe is bullet point number 3, replace engine 2 at the Oak Hill Fire Station. This vehicle will be put in reserve status, and a 30-year-old vehicle, engine 3, will be retired. It takes almost a year to get a new fire truck of this kind, so we would not have to pay for the vehicle until FY19. That is the same year the Central Fire Station loan will be paid off. I assume this would most likely require a loan order. The cost for a new pumper is $525,000. Chief Roy, would you like to?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, thank you. Council, I just handed out the sheet of our vehicles currently and the position they're in by age. As I think we spoke about before, our pumpers, although our other equipment is getting in better shape due to grants and some recent purchases by the city. However, our pumpers, which are our main trucks, one in Oak Hill, one at Summer Street, one out of headquarters, are in bad shape. As you can see, 3 out of 4 of our oldest vehicles, some engine 3 is 32 years old, engine 5 is 22, engine 2 already is 14 and it's still being used in the Oak Hill station. These trucks are just outused their usefulness. We have difficulty finding parts. Engine 3 is now it's going to need a major motor overhaul to pass the next inspection, state inspection. Engine 5's already had severe rotting on the chassis. And engine 2, we've had some issues. In fact, it's in Hopkinton right now being repaired. So we've applied for grants, as I stated in the letter to the mayor. We've been unsuccessful. We'll continue to apply for grants. We've applied for one again, but we've been unsuccessful 5 times in a row. So that doesn't mean we won't get one. However, we're now behind the 8 ball, and we need multiple pumpers, not just one. I believe, and the auditor can clarify this. This is partial. $350,000 is partial. There'll be an additional appropriation coming for the remainder, but this will get us started to get the spec completed, get some solid prices, and then I think there's a plan for the additional funding for this pumper at this time.
Chief, how long have you been requesting this?
The capital improve, well, we did get a pumper a couple of years ago, engine 1. We actually got a couple of them because we were so far behind. I think this request we've probably 3 years now, maybe longer because
What is, so this would replace line 29, fire E2?
it will replace E2, but E2 will bump into reserve status.
Okay.
That truck
I was
is
gonna say,
that truck runs at the Oak Hill Station, covers
Okay.
West Fitchburg and Clegon.
Okay.
And then we will be getting rid of engine 3 or 5. Both those trucks are in tough shape. Engine 3 is older, but we put some money in it back in 2007. However, the main components, the money we've put into these trucks over the years was rust and problems, safety issues. Now it's the pumps, it's the motors, it's the transmissions, it's the major components of the trucks that are
Okay, so
failing.
we're going to replace E2.
Yep.
And we're going to bump out E5 and have E2, well, E2 is going to replace E5 as a reserve.
It'll replace one of them, either 5 or 3, we're not sure yet.
That'll just leave E3 left
Correct.
as your oldest pumper?
That's correct.
Okay. And the 350, I know the letter said 525. Where is the other 175, give or take, going to be coming from, Mr. Brooks?
That would be something we're going to look at as we move forward into the next fiscal year. It could come from the balance of monies from the BF Brown insurance settlement. It could come from free cash next year. It could come from the capital reserve that's in the budget for next year.
Okay.
We're trying to lock up at least this part to commit the process.
It's going to take us at least a month or so. We had to write a spec for grants that we've applied in the past for, but we've got to go back and renew. We haven't updated it in a year, and I'm sure there's price increases by the manufacturers. So it'll take us at least a month to get our committee back together, finalize it, work with purchasing to get everything squared away. So it's going to take a little time.
Council Zarella?
This honestly strikes me as kind of a no-brainer. I mean, our fire department does a great job. We don't want to be sending them out there with 20-year-old trucks that are on their last leg. I know at the moment it's a reserve, but if we were to have some major fire where we needed to call those trucks out of reserve, that's not something I really want on my hands if we didn't have a working truck for that situation. So,
Yeah, Council, that's a good point. We not only use those when we have working fires and recall, but we only have 5 pumpers. 3 of them are always in service, so there's only 2 reserves. And then we have a preventive maintenance program that the mechanic's always pulling trucks out of service for PM, so we have to use those trucks at that time, too. So they get a lot of use. It's not something we don't use.
President Kuchmarek?
Chief, you've been talking about this for years, and these have obviously been on the list, and I've been eyeing that 30-year-old vehicle for a while now, and that'll soon get us close to having all, if not almost all, if not all, of our entire fleet from 2000 to present, which is at least moving us in the right direction. Yep. We know from our police department that when we get into a rotation and a cycle of vehicle replacement, we end up not only saving money in terms of parts and labor and time, it's just more efficient. We've got trucks in service. We never want to be in a situation, as Councilor Zarella pointed out, where a truck is down or unable to handle the work. When we rely on these vehicles, it's usually during strenuous times.
It is.
We can't afford to be relying on equipment that isn't capable of living up to the task. So, again, this is a no-brainer. Once we decommission these vehicles, what's then the process? Do we sell these to other towns, or do these just go to a vehicle graveyard? And
Yeah, we've done all of the above. We've traded them to the manufacturer.
Sure.
We've sold a ladder truck to Barry, and another pumper went to another small community. So I think in this case, I don't know where either one of those trucks would go. Probably one of them we'll have to trade in. The other one, we usually offer to our neighboring communities. That's how Barry took our ladder
I
truck
take
a
it that
few
gets
years
traded
back.
in against the value of the new
Yeah,
pumper.
they're not worth much after they're 30 years old. If we can get $5,000, $10,000 for them on a trade-in, we're doing good. But everybody's in the same boat. Nobody wants to take on a truck that's got a motor and a transmission and a pump that's 30 years old or 20 years old. It's just...
Particularly not to our neighboring towns that will respond for mutual aid.
Well, it happens. Some of the smaller communities that struggle to keep reserve trucks, and sometimes it works out for them. But by and large, we get... I think our last engine we traded ended up down on Benson Street, and Mr. Pomelo cut it up and got rid of it. It was gone.
Thank you, Chief.
Councilor Boschman?
Chief, on this pump, how many men is it going to take to man it?
The three, the engine 2, which runs out of the Oak Hill Station, has 3 firefighters assigned.
Now, my question to you is there any trucks out there still being pump trucks where you can reduce the manpower as you spend a little bit more money?
Now, the national standard, NFPA standards call for 4 firefighters per pumper, and we only maintain 3. The headquarters company recently, with the help of the mayor and the council, we've put in 4 firefighters on it in the past year, and we hope to continue that. But Engine 1 down at Summer Street, Engine 2 at Oak Hill are already below the minimum national standards for staffing. And the trucks, we're adding more equipment, like Councilor Kuzmierik's point. These older trucks don't have like foam systems that we use now extensively. They don't have them. The new trucks will. Doesn't have the safety standards that they have for firefighters with airbags in the riding compartments. So there's a lot to it that we're missing with these older trucks. But the answer is no.
All right.
Council Squalia.
Just to clarify my understanding, the engines are all pumpers.
That's correct.
And we have 7 total pumpers, and 4 are active.
Yeah, no, we have 5 total regular pumpers that are in, 1 at Summer Street in service, 1 at Central in service, 1 at Oak Hill. We then have 2 reserves. Engine 6 is a tanker that carries water. It carries over 2,000 gallons of water.
It's a tanker.
It's a tanker. We have to use it at times because we've had problems with our pumpers, but that's not a preference of that truck. It's a big, heavy truck, and that's more for outlying areas for water supply where we don't have hydrants. And then Engine 7 is a small brush truck. It's just a pickup truck, 4-wheel drive that goes in the woods. So that's not a truck that we use for fire calls.
So is Engine 7 still a pumper?
It has a 300-gallon pump on it for feeding brush fire hoses, off woods, like out the woods, cogs all out in our outlying along the railroad tracks. But it's not a truck that responds to regular fire calls on a daily basis.
And so the new pumper will be engine 2, and that corresponds with our Oak Hill
That's where that truck is stationed, yes.
fire station.
That's correct.
Okay.
And a pumper is, usually now they're 1,750-gallon pumps. They carry anywhere from 750 to 1,000 gallons of water, 1,000 feet of supply hose to lay from hydrants, another 1,500 feet of inch and a half, inch and three-quarter, 2.5-inch hose for using on the fires. SCBAs are self-contained breathing apparatus, hot sticks, thermal imaging cameras, radios, all the things that goes along, extrication
stuff.
tools, all the stuff that goes along with our everyday call response.
And the actual physical size of the truck will be the same, similar as your existing Engine 2?
Yeah,
and
it'll be very similar.
fit
Yeah, the truck in
physically.
Clegon, we usually try and carry 1,000 gallons of water because it's a little longer response up there for the truck to come out of headquarters to get a hydrant and get them water into their pump. So we want to make sure at a fire scene they don't run out of water. So the trucks, the engine companies downtown, the pumpers downtown carry 750 gallons of water. Engine 2 carries 1,000 because we have a lot of three-deckers, a lot of factory buildings, and we got to make sure that the 8 or 10 minutes it takes to get from downtown to get a water supply into that truck at a fire is critical. We don't want them running out of water. So that truck is a little different in that it carries 1,000 gallons
What
of
the
water.
most important.
Okay, thank you.
Motion to approve 17118.
Second.
Motion made and seconded to approve 17118. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? It is unanimous.
Thank you, councilors.
Thank you. 17218, in order that there be and hereby is appropriated the sum of $180,000 to be charged against available funds and credited to DPW capital expenditures equipment for the purpose of acquiring a new vac truck used to flush and vacuum storm drains. Letter from Commissioner Laxo on May 30th to the mayor. I respectfully request approval of the mayor and city council for the appropriation of $180,000 from available funds towards the purchase of a 2017 Vactor sewer truck. This will supplement $200,000 from the FY18 DPW budget that had been planned for this purchase. We will also trade in our existing vac truck, but it is only worth $5,000 as the transmission has failed, and it will be costly to tow it. Our plan has been to purchase a used truck, but after 8 months of searching ourselves and through our dealers, we were unable to find one in acceptable condition. Instead, we propose to purchase a 2017 demonstration model, discounted from the original price of $415,000. This truck will replace our 1994 vac truck, which no longer is operational, and we have salvaged whatever parts that would be useful for the vac truck used by our wastewater division. The vac truck is used to flush and vacuum our storm drains and can also be used for sewers. Maintenance of our underground piping has always been important, but it is even more so under the EPA MS4 stormwater permit.
Motion to approve 17218.
I have a motion and seconded to approve 17218.
On the motion.
On the motion, Counselor Boishman.
on this money that we're appropriating, is this money coming out of the MS4 program that we appropriated $400,000 for last year?
Well, what we're appropriating now is from free cash. The balance is from the budget, which was out of the stormwater item in the budget.
So, what happened to the $400,000 on the MS4 program?
Well, $200,000 goes towards the vac truck. Then the other major expense was installing the new storm drain on Kimball Street, which is
Oh, my
just being
ward?
finished now. Absolutely.
I suspect he never called you about it.
I did call him about it.
Are you all set, counsel?
I'm all
All right,
set.
Motion has been made and seconded to approve 17218. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? It is unanimous. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you, Lenny.
In other words,
17318, in order that there be and hereby is appropriated the sum of $100,000, same be charged against available funds and credited to airport revenue for the purpose of reducing the airport's deficit fund balance. I have a letter here from Auditor Brooks to the mayor on May 30th. Dear Mayor Di Natale, as you know, the airport operates using airport receipts reserved for appropriation to its budget. A balanced budget is approved by City Council, and at the end of the fiscal year, the surplus or deficit for the year is added to the airport fund balance. The airport has managed to maintain a positive fund balance until the past couple of years. As you also know, the airport is in the process of major capital improvement projects. There is a new administration building and renovation to Hangar 7. The airport is also in the process of extending and repaving its main runway. Completion of that project will take several more years and will actually cause a temporary shutdown of the airport when the actual repaving takes place. Once the new runway is complete, jets and other air traffic can return to a busier airport. In the meantime, I believe there will be an ongoing issue of deficits in the annual operating budget of the airport. The June 30th, 2017 fund balance deficit for the airport was $107,282,083. I do not expect the airport to be generating a sufficient enough surplus in 18 to significantly reduce this deficit. Therefore, I am asking for an appropriation from available funds for $100,000 to reduce the fund deficit. This appropriation will help strengthen our balance sheet and avoid a bigger fund deficit at the end of this fiscal year. Thank you for your consideration. I have Mr. Ellis here. Would you like to add anything to that, sir?
I think that that letter says it all. The airport is operating at a loss because of the issues we've had with the old runway and the instrument approaches, and the projects that we have going on right now are to rectify that deficiency.
Councilor Zarella?
I think as we discussed at the budget hearing last week, this is a matter where we anticipate that the airport was going to run at a deficit for a short while. And we need to keep it afloat as it's on the path towards profitability again. Accordingly, I move to approve, 17318.
Second.
Motion made and seconded to approve 17318. Mr. Solicitor, did you have to
I just
say something?
wanted to make sure that you were aware that the mayor's office has been working on renegotiating leases, and we think we've increased rental revenue at the airport by $25,000 annually, and with the help of Mr. Ellis, we're going to be working at the next two tenants who we think are in a position where they're going to need to be paying more rent, would be consistent with the fair market value of their leasehold estates. Specifically, I think President Kushmerek, also Commissioner Kushmerek from the airport, would remember rehabbing Hangar 7. So we've got some tenants over there that had a relatively difficult situation. It's been rectified, and now it's time to take a look at the fair market value of that, and that'll be Mr. Ellis's next step. So he'll be working on increasing the rental revenue. Thank you.
I would suggest, because I know Councilor Boschman mentioned this at the budget hearing, and he was correct in asking, that we have a status update, I'd like to say before the year is over, December, calendar year.
Okay.
Just to see where we are I know we get regular monthly status reports that will show us the revenues that have been taken in versus expenses, but I would like to request in the minutes, and I will raise it again in the future, that we have a special presentation of the airport sometime in November, December, to see where we are at the halfway year point, because this will bring us up to par with where we're at, and then we're starting on a clean slate FY19 forward. So we should get a sense before the halfway point how we're running in FY19 and go from there, but I think it requires a little bit more attention on our part, at least half year, just to see where we're at now that we're cleaning the slate right now. So I would make that request formally here, and I will make that same request in the future for that special presentation. Council Boschman.
My question to you, Mr. Ellis, is this.
sir.
When do we start paying back for the terminal? Because the way I understood it, the state paid it, Mass DOT paid 80% of it,
95%,
95%, and we pay the rest.
yes.
When do you start paying back the rest?
I believe working with Mr. Brooks, we're going to start paying it back next year? Or is it the year after that?
Yeah, I believe in 19, we're paying, the city's paying something down on it, yes.
The city's paying something down, or are they paying something down?
At this point, it's the city, because it's not in their budget. It's in the debt service line item that was voted in the general fund.
So it's not in their budget?
Not in their budget,
It's
correct.
It's in the city budget?
Correct.
And any free cash?
It's in the budget that was voted last Thursday.
All right, that's it. I'm voting against your budget. I'm voting against it.
I have a motion made and seconded to approve 17318. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? One in opposition. Counselor Boschman passes 4-1. Thank you, gentlemen.
The next, Mr. Chair, I think the next three or next two relate to the airport as well.
Yes, sorry. 17418 and 17518. 17418 is an order that there being hereby is appropriated the sum of $25,303 to be charged against available funds and credited to airport expense vehicle replacement for the purpose of acquiring a vegetation management equipment. And 17518, in order that the City of Fitchburg approves the expenditure of funds from the Massachusetts Department of Transportation Aeronautics. Sorry, next page. Division grant in the approximate amount of $101,212 for the purpose of said grant, which is for the acquisition of vegetative management equipment for use at the airport. In the communication provided in our packets from Mr. Ellis, dated May 18th, 2018. Dear Mayor Di Natale, recently the Fitchburg Municipal Airport was offered grant funding by the Mass Department of Transportation Aeronautics Division for the purchase of vegetative management equipment. This generous grant offer, with a maximum value of $108,000, would fund 80% of the total cost of equipment purchased. The airport is comprised approximately of 363 acres of land, of which approximately two-thirds of which is routinely maintained as grass or pavement area. The remaining one-third is brush, wooded areas that require less frequent attention, but demand specialty equipment to address tree growth into protected airspace. Historically, the FAA and Mass DOT have funded on-airport vegetation removal. However, those agencies are becoming less willing to fund continuous vegetation management, as they see this as airport's responsibility. The Mass DOT grant offer is a unique opportunity for the airport to acquire the needed equipment with only a 20% local contribution for the cost. Additionally, Mass DOT will allow the airport to acquire attachments to conduct snow removal around the new administrative building, which has proved cumbersome with our existing equipment. The equipment we hope to acquire is a John Deere 333G compact track loader equipped with the forestry safety package and various attachments to address different types of vegetation that currently exist on the airport. This equipment will also be capable of maintaining the off-airport tree clearing areas the airport has recently conducted as part of the FAA-funded projects, and which must be maintained long-term by the airport. I have attached a quote from the Schmidt Equipment, which includes all equipment to be purchased. Our consultant, Gale Associates, has assisted the airport and the City of Fitchburg Purchasing Department in developing the solicitation notice, distributing to qualified vendors, and obtaining the required quotes. This has all been done in accordance with the Commonwealth of Massachusetts FAC 88 procurement regulations. Today, everything is in place to issue a purchase order with the exception of the local share. As a condition of the Mass DOT grant offer, all equipment must be purchased and delivered to the airport by June 30th, 2018. Therefore, I respectfully ask for assistance from the city to fund the local share of this important project. My understanding is that this request is from the city's free cash account. Based on the above local share, the airport requests $25,303. The Airport Commission voted at their April meeting to approve this project and the above referenced cost. We appreciate your willingness to consider our request. Councilor Zarella.
This, as I understand it, the whole reason that we ran into problems with the airport in the first place had to do with vegetation growth, shutting down night flights and whatnot.
That was one of the problems, yes.
So in order to get us to where we want to be in the next few years, this is an essential component of it. So I would move to approve 174-18 and 175. Sure, I'll hold the motion for the moment.
Council Boschman.
It's $25,303. Mr. Brooks,
Yes, sir.
are they gonna pay the city back?
They don't have the funds right now to do that. That's why it's being requested from free cash.
So we just keep on writing the checks. Jesus. My question to you, Mr. Scott Ellis, I'm driving down Airport Road heading to Leominster, Massachusetts. I look to my right. There's all overgrowth on the side of the fence where it gets hit all the time, Mr. Ellis. Are we gonna maintain that part of the airport where the overgrowth is, where you can't see, you can't even see the wastewater treatment plant any longer because of the overgrowth in that particular, and now on that bend?
Well, sir, first of all, I wouldn't consider the growth on Crawford Street to be overgrowth. Not all of it. Those trees do not interfere with the approaches to the airport, and they provide a sound and wind buffer for residents that live up in that area. We've had issues where we've had concerts in the past that people in Leominster have complained about, and if those trees are removed, that noise is going to carry even further. So we can maintain that, we can cut that down, but really that the vegetation on Crawford Street provides a natural sound barrier, and I wouldn't want to remove it unless it became a hazard, which currently it is not.
I'm not gonna support the $25,000.
Council Walsh.
Yeah, I just have a question. With this equipment then, will we be able to maintain the growth and the vegetation to a point where we're not going to have that problem in the future with having to, close down the airport? Because
Yes. Yes, this piece of equipment has a mount that allows us to switch out to different pieces of equipment, including brush hogs, tree cutters, snow removal equipment. So it's for vegetative management, but we also have the ability to use it year-round. And it will give us the ability to maintain those trees on and off airport property much easier than we previously could. We do have agricultural equipment. We have a John Deere tractor, but the center of gravity on that is very high, and the terrain where these trees are being a problem is pitched to the point that we've already dropped the John Deere on its side once. This new piece of equipment is much more robust, and we'll be able to do a better job without having to farm that out again.
Thank you.
Council Squilla.
So we do not currently, the airport does not currently own any equipment that can handle this, cutting the vegetation, and that is because historically the FAA and Mass DOT have funded the vegetation removal.
Yes, there's a state program called the Massachusetts Mass DOT VMP, which is the Vegetative Management Program, where they basically come around to airports every year and they cut down those trees. They are less willing to do that, and they'd rather fund a piece of equipment and then leave it up to the airport instead of having them having to farm out a contractor to come and cut it down.
So them being less willing, is that why the vegetation have grown to a point that we lost our
There's a couple of
ability
different
to
reasons.
have the
That-
instrument reading?
That's one of the reasons. The other reason is that a lot of the vegetation was on private property, and we didn't have the easements or the ability to go onto that property to cut the trees down. Now those easements are in place. So if the airport had the equipment, we could go onto that property with sufficient notice and remove any problem trees or trees before they become a problem.
Got it. Okay, so where will this equipment be stored, and who is operating the equipment?
It's going to be stored on the airport. Again, with the various attachments, the quick change attachments, it can be used not only for vegetative management, it can also be used for earth moving and snow removal. So it'll be stored in our equipment building.
So you have staff
Yes,
that are going to be able to use this on hand?
yes.
Okay, thank you.
Council Boishman.
Alice, isn't it true that we pay these abutters to go onto their property to cut down those trees? Is it not true that we told them, the airport told them they no longer can plant a tree that can grow 80, 90 feet up in the air?
No.
It's not true?
No, that's not how the easement works. We don't control what they do with that land. If they want to plant trees, they can plant trees. The trees only become a problem once they reach a certain height and penetrate the approach, at which point we have the right to go onto the property now and remove just that problem tree. We don't tell them they cannot grow trees. We only act when when the height of that tree becomes a problem.
So I'm kind of lost. I'm trying to figure this out. So you're telling me that if I go out and I plant an oak tree in my yard tomorrow, and 25 years later, the oak tree is 40 feet high up, you're going to come in and cut that same oak tree that you cut down 20 years ago?
Yes.
Aren't we defeating our purpose here? We're paying money after money. We got to go
The
back over there and do
easements-
double work.
The easements that we have don't allow us to regulate the person's property. It only allows us to remove a tree if it becomes a hazard to aviation navigation.
Because I was under the, when you sat here, and when it was explained from the other people, I was under the impression that they were told that they could plant anything they wanted as long as they didn't plant a tree. I was under that impression.
Counselor, can we keep the discussion to the procurement of the capital equipment, please?
All right, well, I'm just asking, because he's using, well, Mr. Dean, the council president, he is using this as an example of why he needs the particular equipment. so that he can
You're
go on the
talking
property.
about operational matters. This is about paying for a piece of equipment to cut vegetation. He has other vegetation at the airport that doesn't apply to what you're talking about that he has to address.
Well, anyway, I'm not going to vote in favor of it. That's it.
Counsel Squalia.
Don't we have a height easement? Wasn't that part of wasn't there a height restriction on our easement?
Yes.
So if a tree grows to that point, it's still our responsibility. They can't like put a second addition
Point
on
of
their
order,
house.
Mr. Chair. I thought
Correct.
we were discussing the capital purchase, not easements.
I really would not like to get into easements here. I don't,
A motion to approve 174 and 175, 18.
Second.
motion made and seconded to approve 174, 175, 174, 175, 18. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
I don't want to vote against the second one. I want to vote against the first one, 174-18.
Okay, counsel, we can take them separately if you wish. Is that okay with everybody on the committee?
Motion to approve 174, 18.
Second.
Motion made and seconded to approve 174-18 for the city's share. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? One in opposition. Counsel Boishman. 176-18?
Motion to approve
Sorry.
175, 18.
175-18. Motion made and seconded to approve 175-18. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Okay.
You're opposed to that too, Counselor?
No,
Oh,
I'm voting in
vo-
favor of it.
It's unanimous. 175-18. Thank you. 17718, in order that each prior order of the city council that authorizes the borrowing of money to pay costs of capital projects is hereby supplemented to provide that in accordance with Chapter 44, Section 20 of the general laws, as most recently amended by the Municipal Modernization Act, so-called, the premium received by the city upon the sale of any bonds or notes thereunder, less than any such premium applied to the payment of the cost of issuance of such bonds or notes, may be applied to pay project costs, and the amount authorized to be borrowed for each such project shall be reduced by the amount of any such premium so applied. Treasurer Cervantes.
Good evening. But prior to the Municipal Modernization Act's passing, any premium that was received by the city when issuing bonds could only be used for two purposes. One would be to pay the issuance costs of the bonds, and the other, it could be set aside for appropriation for other capital projects. The Municipal Modernization Act added a third use, which was to use the premiums towards the actual project costs, thereby reducing the amount that the city would have to borrow. The one condition of this is, though, that the loan order specify that this use is allowed. So all of the loan orders that the city has passed since that act do include that wording, but none of the prior loan orders do. So this order would supplement those prior orders and add the wording necessary so that the premium could be used towards the project costs.
Do we have any idea the amount of that premium? Do we have any idea what kind of a premium we would be getting for those past projects?
I do not have that information, no.
This would obtain to, this would be in correlation to the loan rate, basically, on these loans? So is it conceivable to think that we're going to get a credit by applying this to those other loan orders that have already been appropriated?
If there are premiums that have been set aside, it could be, I believe.
I think what this is doing is saying that, is basically saying if there is a premium, and they're generally premiums, how that premium can be used.
Okay.
And it allows, adopting this allows more flexibility in
So
the use of that.
there's only upside with doing this?
Right, it was recommended by bond council that the city pass it, and
Okay.
it's indeed just for more flexibility in the use of the premium.
Okay. Councilor Zarella.
So as I'm understanding this, just if I'm correct for the benefit of anyone listening, this basically says that instead of, if you have project costs for a particular thing that this applies to, rather than taking the premium, setting it aside for appropriations, then having to get an appropriation to pay those project costs, you can instead just apply it directly. So there's no actual loss to the city budget from this, if it gets applied to this rather than something else. It just cuts out a step that would need to be
It can be
taken.
directly applied to the project costs and thereby, and then the city can borrow less because the premium has gone towards the project.
All right, motion to approve 17718.
Motion made and seconded to approve 17718. Any questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? It is unanimous. Thank you. Last item on the agenda, 17918, petition Jacqueline R. Poirier, Cemetery Superintendent, to approve the attached price increases which were approved by the Board of Cemetery Trustees on April 19th, 2018. Good evening.
Good evening.
Hi. Would you please state your name and record for the
Yes,
minutes,
Diane
please?
Willett, cemetery trustee.
Yep.
So the cemetery has not had a price increase as far as your graves and the opening costs since 2007. The price in 2007 was $1,550. And the board put in front of me this past winter to go ahead and ask around to local communities and communities of our size what the prices are, so we could be, at the same level that everyone else is. I did that comparison, and the average cost for a grave in the opening is $2,000. So we are under where we should be, with no price increase on the grave in the opening since 2007. The average cost averaged out to $2,038.66, so we just kind of rounded it up and said $2,000. The board is very cognitive of trying to keep the prices to a fair minimum. When a family has a loss, they have to purchase that grave, and if there is a spouse, they can put a payment down and then make monthly payments on that grave to make it so, the Fitchburg residents can actually afford. It's very expensive to pass. Doing this price increase, there was a lot of thought behind it.
What was the current rate again that we're charging right now?
$1,550 for the grave and the opening for a Fitchburg resident.
Is that per grave or?
Yes.
Per grave? Okay.
Per grave.
Okay. And there hasn't been an increase since 2007?
Correct.
And I know that the revenue that we collect from the cemetery opening costs is about $45,000 or $50,000 annually. That's what we budget for anyway, which goes towards the general fund. But you can say that it's applied to the maintenance and upkeep of the cemetery. So I'm pleased to see that there's an increase in comparison to the market forces where we are in competition with neighboring cities and towns to provide a fair market rate, considering we haven't had an increase in 11 years. So this is good. I would hope the Cemetery Commission, like any other commission, looks at these rates every few years or so just to see how we're keeping on pace, and not have to go back here every decade or so for an increase, just keep tabs on it. So I'm pleased to see that this has been brought forward. Councilor Kuchmarek.
You mentioned earlier, it's never easy. The cost of death is quite high, unfortunately, and having lost a parent recently, I got to see that cost firsthand. So I know it's never easy to look at the current rate and then look at essentially a 30% increase, but at the same time we look at the cost of living has gone up in 11 years, the cost of labor for our DPW, as well as the availability of land has gone down, making those properties more valuable. We have to think about the long-term financial sustainability of our cemeteries, and I know to the public and to those who are looking at this cost and thinking it's high, we have to think long-term about not only the availability of land, but then the costs of doing it and making sure that we're charging the appropriate amount to maintain everything, so that it's we have beautiful cemeteries, and it's important that stay that way, not just now, but for generations to come. So unfortunately, these costs are necessary, and I applaud you for doing your due diligence of checking what our neighboring communities are charging and making sure we're in line and equitable.
To be fair, too, that this price would put us right at the average.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there are communities that charge more, but I'm sure that was part of the consideration, keeping it on an average level, because clearly we could go higher and still be under some cities and towns, but that's not necessary, I'm sure. So that's positive, too. Councilor Walsh?
And I would just like to echo Chair Di Natale's request that maybe this process of evaluating the fees be done regularly, so that the price increase isn't that huge jump. I mean, a little bit of an increase each year or every couple of years is probably a little easier to digest than a huge one, 30%. But
You're absolutely right. There's been a changeover of the board, so yes, I will keep an eye on that. Thank you.
Councilor Squally?
Just to clarify the cost, the old cost was approximately $1,550. Was that also for a Monday through Friday or a Saturday, Sunday? Was it delineated like that before?
Yes, it was. Yes, it was. That was just the average Monday through Friday with the grave and the opening. If we need to bring gentlemen in on overtime on Saturday, then there is an additional cost for that, yes.
So the new total for a single grave for a Fitchburg resident will be a minimum of $2,000 on a weekday.
Correct.
And $2,125 on Saturday and $2,200 on Sunday.
Yes.
Thank you.
Move to approve 17918.
Motion made second to approve 17918. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? It is unanimous.
Motion to
you.
adjourn.
Second.
Motion made and seconded to adjourn. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Thank you. We are adjourned.